Look at a letter from a Birmingham jail by Dr. Martin Luther King. I want to remind you that before you begin the close read, you need to do the Albert assignments before you complete the close read. Okay, and you also must complete concept vocabulary and word study before you attempt the close read letter from a Birmingham jail. So if you have not completed those assignments, you need to stop what you are doing right now and you need to go back and do those 3 assignments. Okay, so we're going to look at a letter from a Birmingham jail by Dr. Martin Luther King, and I'm going over 3 questions in this video. The video will be long. I will tell you that right now. I will pause throughout the video and allow you to put your answers on the close read. My advice to you is to do the following. If I were you, what I would do is I would go to my drive and I would open a Google Doc and I would put my answers into the Google Doc before I write my answers here. There are 9 questions here, and if you are in the middle of class, you may close your laptop without realizing that you've closed your laptop, and you may lose all of your work. So you need to open a Google Doc right now so you don't lose your work. Okay, so we're going to look at the first question for Dr. King's letter from a Birmingham jail. So let's look at question number 1. Question number 1, you are to reread paragraph 1, identify one claim opposing King's work to which he is responding in the first paragraph of the letter. To whom is he responding and why is this audience significant? So we're going to go to the textbook and we're going to look at a letter from a Birmingham jail by Dr. Martin Luther King. Okay. So let's look at it. 16th of April, 1963. My dear fellow clergymen, while confined here in the Birmingham City Jail, I came across your recent statement calling my present activities unwise and untimely. Seldom do I pause to answer criticism of my work and ideas. If I had sought to answer all the criticisms that cross my desk, my secretaries would have little time for anything other than such correspondence in the course of the day, and I would have no time for constructive work. But since I feel that you are men of genuine goodwill and your criticisms are sincerely set forth, I want to try to answer your statement in what I hope will be patient and reasonable terms. So we're going to look at that first question one more time, asking us about Dr. King. So the question is asking us, identify one claim opposing King's work to which he is responding in the first paragraph. Well, he pretty much tells us that that he's responding to statements that he is behaving in a manner that is unwise and untimely. Okay, so that is our first claim. Okay. And so let's look at the rest of the question. The rest of the question is asking to whom is he responding? And he is responding to his fellow clergymen. Yes, of course, Ms. Collins, he is responding to religious leaders, but he uses the word fellow. And by using the word fellow, he's saying that these clergymen are his equals. Because remember, with slavery and with the laws of Jim Crow, African Americans were seen as second-class citizens, or they were seen as people who were not as intelligent as their white counterparts. Okay, so the word fellow says that Dr. King considers these white clergymen to be his equals. Okay? And let's look at the rest of the question. The rest of the question is asking to whom is he responding? We answered that question. And why is this audience significant? Well, the audience is significant because he expects these people to read what he has to say and understand what he has to say. And he tells us that. But since I feel that you are men of genuine goodwill and your criticisms are set forth, I want to answer your statement in what I hope will be reasonable and patient terms. So he wants to look at these people as thoughtful people, as people who may see him as sort of a rabble rouser. or a person who likes to create conflict, or what they said earlier was unwise and untimely. And so he is addressing these people and telling them, okay, if you assume, you're assuming that I'm unwise and untimely, I am writing this letter to show you that I am not unwise and I am timely. Okay, so I'm going to give you time to write down that answer, and I'm going to pause the video, let you do it, and we'll be back. Okay, students, we're back, and we're going to look at question number 6. Question number 6. Okay, so question number 6 is asking, reread paragraph 7. Why might have Dr. King have taken the time so early in the letter to delve into such minute details about steps taken and recent events in Birmingham? So let's go to paragraph 7. Okay, this last September came the opportunity to talk with leaders of Birmingham's economic community. In the course of the negotiations, certain promises were made by the merchants, for example, to remove the store's humiliating racial signs. On the basis of these promises, the Reverend Fred Shuttleworth and the leaders of the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights agreed to a moratorium on all demonstrations. As the weeks and months went by, we realized that we were the victims of a broken promise. A few signs, briefly removed, returned. The others remained. Okay, so let's go back and let's look at the question. The question is asking, why might have Dr. King have taken the steps so early in the letter to delve into minute details about steps taken and recent events in Birmingham, Alabama? So Dr. King once again is responding to the statements that, to the claim that he was untimely. And what he does is he carefully details the evidence that shows on the contrary that his work is long overdue. Because after all, on the basis of promises, they said that there would be a moratorium on demonstrations, and they would take down these humiliating racial signs. However, the promises were broken. The signs were removed, then they returned, and some of them didn't even bother to take down the signs. So these men of Christian faith made a promise to these people, and they broke the promise. Okay? So not only is that an unchristian thing to do, because your word is your bond, and also they have delayed and delayed and delayed. And it is long overdue that this racial segregation that is designed to humiliate Black people, it has to stop. And so Dr. King is saying that these promises that were made were broken. And he was not being untimely because they said that they would remove the signs. And they didn't remove the signs. They should have removed those signs with immediate speed, and they did not remove them. So the people that were being untimely were the shopkeepers who kept the humiliating racial signs in their stores. I'm going to pause and let you guys write down your answer. Okay, and once again, we have parallel structure one more time. Parallel structure again, Miss Collins. Yes, darling, we have parallel structure again. So let's look at question number 8. You're going to reread paragraph 14, and you're going to highlight the parallel structure used in the passage. What effect does this use of parallel structure have on King's argument? So let's go and let's look at paragraph 14. And paragraph 14 is, we waited for more than 340 years for our constitutional and God-given rights. The nations of Asia and Africa are moving with jet-like speed towards gaining political independence, but we creep at horse and buggy pace towards gaining a cup of coffee at a lunch counter. Perhaps it is easier for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say, wait, But when you have seen vicious mobs lynch your mothers and fathers at will and drown your sisters and brothers at whim, when you have seen hate-filled police curse, kick, and even kill your black brothers and sisters, when you see the vast majority of your 20 million Negro brothers smothered in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of affluent society, when you find your tongue twisted and your speech stammered as you seek to explain to your 6-year-old daughter while she can't go to the public amusement park that has just been advertised on television and see tears welling up in her eyes when she is told that Funtown is closed to colored children, and see ominous clouds of inferiority begin to form in her little mental sky, and see her beginning to distort her personality by developing unconscious bitterness towards white people, when you have to concoct an answer for a 5-year-old son who is asking, Daddy, why do white people treat colored people so mean? When you take a cross-country drive and find it necessary to sleep night after night in the uncomfortable corners of your automobile because no hotel will accept you, when you are humiliated day in and day out by nagging signs reading white and colored, when your first name becomes nigger and your middle name becomes boy, however old you are, and your last name becomes John, and your wife and mother are never given the respected title of Mrs., when you are harried by day and haunted by night by the fact that you are a Negro living constantly a tiptoe stance, never quite knowing what to expect next, and are plagued with inner fears and outer resentments, when you are forever fighting a denigrating sense of nobodiness, then you will understand why we find it difficult to wait. There comes at a time when the cup of endurance runs over and men are no longer willing to be plunged into the abyss of despair. I hope, sirs, you can understand our legitimate and unavoidable impatience. So let's go back and let's look at that question for number 8. And let's look at the parallel structure that Dr. King uses there. So he uses a subordinate clause. And what a subordinate clause is it has a subject and it has a predicate, but it does not express a complete thought. And where does Dr. King use that? So let's look here. Some of you may find it before I do. Okay, so when you have, so he uses subordinate clause and he uses the words when you at the beginning of these subordinate clauses. And each clause states a response to the precluding sentence. Perhaps it's, and for example, when he says, perhaps it's easy. I remember where he said that. Perhaps it's easy for those of you who have never felt the stinging starts of segregation to say, okay? And let's see there, where he says, perhaps it's easy. Okay, and so what Dr. King is saying there is he's answering all of those questions that are telling Black people, well, you need to wait. You need to wait. You need to wait. And Dr. King is answering each one of those waits with the daily injustices and humiliations that African Americans must deal with on a daily basis. So he makes clear that these patterns of discrimination are something that these white clergymen do not have to deal with. These are some things that their brethren who are Black, African American, have to deal with. Now, one of the beliefs within Christianity is you love your neighbor as you love yourself. And these examples show that within racial segregation, that's not happening. Okay? So Dr. King shows a pattern of discrimination here that is not only unjust, it is also unchristian. I'm going to give you time to write your answer. Okay, students, and that's all we're going to do for this section of a letter from a Birmingham jail. If you have any questions or concerns, please email me at tcollins@ebrschools.org. Send me a remind message. Speak up in class. Speak to me in a chat. or send me a message and Go Guardian. You guys have a wonderful day. And remember to put your answers in a Google Doc and then transfer them over. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.